In the heart of ancient Israel, amidst the rolling hills and valleys, a tale of courage, faith, and triumph unfolds. Join us as we journey back in time to witness the incredible saga of David and Goliath, a story that continues to captivate hearts and minds across generations. In this epic narrative, we'll follow the humble shepherd boy, David, whose unwavering faith in God leads him to confront the towering Philistine giant, Goliath. But this is more than just a battle of strength and skill. It's a testament to the enduring power of faith in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. So, settle in and prepare to be inspired as we delve into the timeless tale of David and Goliath, where giants are defeated, and faith prevails. Once upon a time, in the rolling hills of ancient Israel, there lived a shepherd boy named David. His days were spent tending to his father's sheep, watching over them with care and diligence. Despite his young age, David possessed a heart full of courage and a spirit imbued with faith. In the land of Israel, a great conflict brewed between the Israelites and their sworn enemies, the Philistines. The Philistine army, led by their fierce champion, Goliath, stood poised to wage war against the people of God. Goliath, a towering giant clad in armor and wielding a mighty sword, struck fear into the hearts of all who beheld him. His voice thundered across the battlefield, challenging any who dared to face him in single combat. The Israelites trembled at the sight of Goliath, for none among them possessed the strength or bravery to confront such a formidable adversary. Day after day, Goliath's taunts echoed through the valley, mocking the God of Israel and daring anyone to challenge his might. Meanwhile, in the hills overlooking the battlefield, David tended to his father's flock, unaware of the great turmoil gripping his homeland. One day, Jesse, David's father, called upon him and said, "David, my son, take this grain and bread to your brothers who serve in King Saul's army. See how they fare in the face of the Philistine threat." Filled with a sense of duty, David set out for the camp of the Israelites, his heart heavy with concern for his brothers and his people. As he arrived at the camp, he was met with the clamor of soldiers preparing for battle and the murmurs of fear that hung thick in the air. David sought out his brothers among the ranks of the soldiers and found them huddled together, their faces etched with worry. "What troubles you, my brothers?" David inquired. One of his brothers, Eliab, turned to him with a scowl and said, "Why have you come here, David? Shouldn't you be tending to your sheep?" Undeterred by his brother's harsh words, David pressed on, "Tell me, what is the cause of this great distress among our people?" Eliab gestured toward the valley below, where the Philistine army lay encamped. "Behold, Goliath, the champion of the Philistines," he said. "For 40 days, he has defied the armies of Israel, challenging us to send forth a champion to face him in single combat. But none among us are brave enough to accept his challenge." As David listened to his brother's words, a fire ignited within him. He could not stand idly by while the enemies of God blasphemed his name and terrorized his people. With unwavering faith and determination, David declared, "I will go and fight this Philistine." Eliab scoffed at his younger brother's audacity. "You? A mere shepherd boy, challenging the mighty Goliath? Do not be foolish, David. You are no match for him." But David remained steadfast in his resolve. Turning away from his incredulous brother, he approached King Saul and said, "Do not be afraid, O king. I will go and fight this Philistine." King Saul regarded David with disbelief. "You are but a youth, and Goliath has been a warrior from his youth. How can you hope to stand against him?" But David answered, "The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine." Impressed by David's courage and faith, King Saul relented and said, "Go, and may the Lord be with you." Before he set out to face Goliath, David refused to wear the armor and sword offered to him by King Saul. Instead, he chose to arm himself with his shepherd's staff, a sling, and 5 smooth stones from the brook. With nothing but his faith in God and the conviction of his heart, David descended into the valley to confront the giant who dared to defy the living God. As David approached Goliath, the giant sneered and mocked him, "Am I a dog, that you come at me with sticks? Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field." Undaunted by Goliath's threats, David replied, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands." With a prayer on his lips and a steadfast gaze, David swung his sling and hurled a stone at Goliath with all his might. The stone struck the giant squarely in the forehead, and he fell to the ground, stunned and lifeless. The Israelites erupted into cheers and shouts of victory as they witnessed the downfall of their mighty foe. Inspired by David's bravery and faith, they rallied behind him and pursued the fleeing Philistines, driving them back in defeat. In the aftermath of the battle, David stood triumphant upon the field, his heart overflowing with gratitude to the God who had delivered him and his people from the hands of their enemies. From that day forth, David's name echoed throughout the land as a symbol of courage, faith, and the power of God to overcome the greatest of obstacles. As the dust settled on the battlefield, King Saul approached David, his eyes filled with awe and admiration. "Truly, you are a brave and valiant warrior, David," he said. "You have delivered us from the hand of our enemy and brought honor to the name of the Lord." David bowed humbly before the king, giving thanks to God for the victory that had been won. "It was not by my strength or skill, O king, but by the hand of the Lord who fights for his people," he said. King Saul embraced David as a son, declaring, "From this day forth, you shall be counted among the heroes of Israel. Your name shall be remembered and celebrated throughout the generations." News of David's victory spread like wildfire throughout the land, inspiring hope and courage among the Israelites and striking fear into the hearts of their enemies. The Philistines, shaken by the defeat of their champion, retreated in disarray, their once mighty army now scattered and demoralized. In the days that followed, David returned to his father's house, where he was welcomed as a hero and a savior. Jesse embraced his son with tears of joy, saying, "Truly, the hand of the Lord is upon you, my son. You have brought honor to our family and glory to his name." But even as David basked in the adulation of his people, he remained humble and steadfast in his devotion to God. He knew that it was not his own strength or valor that had won the day but the grace and favor of the Almighty who guided his hand and granted him victory. Meanwhile, in the court of King Saul, whispers of jealousy and envy began to stir among the king's advisers and counselors. They looked upon David with suspicion and resentment, fearing that his rising popularity and favor with the king posed a threat to their own positions of power and influence. Saul's chief adviser, a cunning and ambitious man named Doeg, seized upon this opportunity to sow seeds of discord and division within the king's court. He whispered poison into Saul's ear, saying, "Beware of David, O king, for he is not as loyal and faithful as he appears. His rise to prominence threatens your rule and the stability of your kingdom." Saul, plagued by doubt and insecurity, began to view David with suspicion, wondering if he truly could trust the young shepherd who had become his greatest champion. In secret, he plotted to rid himself of David and eliminate the threat to his throne once and for all. But despite Saul's treachery and the plots of his enemies, David remained steadfast in his faith and loyalty to the king. He continued to serve Saul faithfully, playing his harp to soothe the troubled king's soul and standing ready to defend him against any threat that might arise. Yet even as David sought to prove his loyalty to Saul, the king's heart grew ever more hardened against him. Enraged by jealousy and consumed by fear, Saul resolved to destroy David and eliminate the threat he perceived to his reign. In the dead of night, Saul summoned his most trusted soldiers and ordered them to hunt down David and bring him back to face justice. But David, warned by the whispers of loyal friends and allies, fled into the wilderness, seeking refuge among the hills and caves that dotted the countryside. For many long months, David lived as a fugitive and an outlaw, pursued relentlessly by Saul's soldiers and forced to flee from place to place in search of safety. Yet through it all, he clung to his faith in God and drew strength from the knowledge that he was not alone. In the depths of the wilderness, David found refuge among a band of fellow outcasts and misfits who had been drawn to his side by tales of his bravery and valor. Together, they formed a loyal band of followers who stood ready to fight alongside him against any who would seek to harm him. As the months turned into years, David's band of followers grew in number and strength, becoming a force to be reckoned with in the land of Israel. They raided the camps of the Philistines, ambushed their supply lines, and struck fear into the hearts of their enemies, earning David a fearsome reputation as a warrior and a leader. Yet even as David's fame and renown spread throughout the land, he never lost sight of the true source of his strength and his success. He knew that it was not his own skill or cunning that had brought him victory but the hand of the Lord who had guided him and protected him through every trial and tribulation. And so, the story of David and Goliath endures as a timeless testament to the power of faith and the triumph of good over evil. Though the road may be long and fraught with danger, those who place their trust in the Lord will always find the strength to overcome even the mightiest of giants.